Christmas in a foreign city. Snow fell in a language none of them spoke fluently. It drifted between narrow streets lined with glowing shop windows and unfamiliar signs, settling softly on shoulders hunched against the cold. For Amina, the city felt like a beautiful puzzle she hadn't yet learned how to solve. She had arrived in Prague 2 weeks before Christmas for a research fellowship, carrying one suitcase and the quiet ache of leaving her family behind in Nairobi. Back home, Christmas meant laughter, spice-heavy meals, and voices layered over one another. Here, it meant silence in her rented studio, and the hum of a tram passing like a stranger in the night. On Christmas Eve, she wandered out anyway. The cafe on the corner of Karlova Street was the only one still open, its windows fogged with warmth and cinnamon. Inside, a small group of people sat around a single long table, none of them quite belonging to the place, yet all of them seeking shelter from the same loneliness. Luca was the first to look up and smile at her. He was Italian from Florence, working temporarily as a sound technician for a touring orchestra. His Christmas traditions involved loud arguments, too much wine, and his grandmother's relentless insistence that everyone eat more. This year, his family was thousands of kilometers away, and the orchestra had disbanded for the holiday, leaving him alone with his violin and a city he barely understood. "Join us," he said, gesturing to the empty chair beside him. "This table seems to collect lost people." Amina hesitated, then laughed softly and sat down. Across from them was May, a graphic designer from Shanghai, her red scarf wrapped tightly around her neck. She had chosen to stay in Europe rather than fly home, chasing a dream of creative freedom that came with a heavy price, missing her parents' first Christmas without her. Next to her sat Daniel, a Canadian journalist based in Berlin, whose assignment had fallen through at the last minute, stranding him in Prague with nothing but a notebook and an unfinished article. They began with small talk, the safe, shallow kind. "Where are you from? What do you do? How long are you here?" But as mugs of mulled wine were passed around and the windows fogged further, the conversation softened. They spoke of what Christmas meant back home. Amina described her mother waking before dawn to cook, the scent of cardamom and cloves filling the house. Luca talked about midnight mass, and the way his father cried every year without explanation. May admitted she missed the noise more than anything. The arguments, the music, the constant presence of people who knew her history. Daniel confessed that he'd been avoiding going home for years, afraid to face the version of himself his family still remembered. The cafe owner, an older woman with kind eyes, brought out a small plate of cookies on the house and wished them a Merry Christmas in careful English. Outside, church bells rang, echoing off ancient stone. Something shifted then. They weren't strangers anymore. They were witnesses to one another's stories. Luca pulled out his violin and, after asking permission, played a gentle melody that didn't belong to any one country. May hummed along, her voice soft and unsure at first. Amina closed her eyes, feeling the music wrap around her like a familiar embrace. Daniel wrote nothing, choosing instead to be fully present, his pen resting quietly on the table. Later, they walked together through the snow-dusted streets, sharing scarves and laughter, pointing out lights shaped like stars and angels. They stood on a bridge overlooking the river, watching reflections tremble on the water, and made small promises to meet again before they all returned to their separate lives, to remember this night when loneliness threatened to return. At midnight, they exchanged simple gifts, a handwritten note, a shared photograph, a story retold so it wouldn't be lost. Christmas didn't look like home that year. But in a foreign city, among unfamiliar streets and borrowed warmth, they found something just as sacred, a reminder that belonging isn't always tied to place, and that sometimes the truest connection is found far from where you started. And for one snowy night, they were no longer alone.